I cannot believe how fast time goes. I don't know where you are. I don't know what you're doing today, but for me, it is hot. It is summer. You will notice I have a tank top on. My hair is curly. You know, the humidity is high. That's what that means. Okay. Just in case you didn't know, when it is hot and humid, my hair is curly and pulled back. Like I don't mess with it. Right. So it is Friday again. For those that don't know me, my name is Nicole Broadhurst. I'm a former healthcare administrator turned independent patient advocate, founder of Tennessee Health Advocates, where we help busy, committed professionals take control of medical bills without the frustration of medical billing departments. However, on Fridays, like to hang out with my friends. And I love to share my friends with you, right? Because I know some pretty cool, neat people that are doing some pretty amazing things in the patient advocacy space, specifically today in the advocacy space. Some days it's in the financial space, some days it's, just for fun because they're neat people. But today I'm bringing one of my newer friends on. Her name is Kayla, and I'm going to let her do a lot of the explaining on what she does and introduce herself. But just so you know, Kayla is a member of the Circle community, which is the circle where advocates surround patients with support. So if you're an advocate and you're looking for a community to support your efforts, come join us over there. Right? I know, there she is. I love it. Hey, Kayla, how are you today?
Hi, good morning, good afternoon. Well, I think it's afternoon for everybody, but
I know, right? Right. So how are you today? Where are you hanging out? Tell us where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
thank you. I am well. I am on the east coast of Maryland. It is also hot and humid, though my hair doesn't tell you because this is all it ever does.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited to have you. Thank you so much for blocking some time to join me today.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about what is it that you do? Your company's name is Herd for Life.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Tell us about that. What is that?
Yeah. So HERD is actually an acronym and it stands for Health Empowerment Through Advocacy for Patients' Rights and Dignities. That is really the foundation of my core values, belief, and drive, the mission behind what I'm setting out for. So I have been in the healthcare space for over 11 years now, most of that time as an RN, a registered nurse in critical care areas like ICU and ER. I have found there's a lot of flaws in our healthcare system. That's probably not news to anybody. And, after a while, it got very frustrating to be part of that system and really feel like you're just going on a broken hamster wheel. And I found out about independent patient advocacy as an industry at the end of last summer, heading into the fall, and knew that that was a calling that I have. Actually, when I found out about it, I said, oh my God, that is a job made for me. I said, I've been fiercely advocating for my patients for years in between titrating
Right?
critical drips. I said, I can
In
just do that.
between titrating critical
Right.
drips, right?
No big deal, right? So, yeah, it was, a big barrier for me though was, for those who don't know, working in the independent patient advocacy space is typically an entrepreneurial venture. You don't really go out and get a job doing that. So that's definitely a barrier to entry. And it certainly pushed me back for a while. But in the beginning of this year, things got to a place. It was really a calling I could no longer ignore. I often describe this work isn't something I want to do. It's something I have to do.
I love that. I love that. And I think, Kayla, that's pretty common, right? That those of us that are in this work and doing this work, it really is a very personal calling. Like you said, I love it. I love it. So tell us more. Tell us more. What happened then?
Okay, what happened then? So I started reaching out to all the advocates that I could find to figure out what in the world to do. When I decided to become a nurse many years ago, it was very clear. I went to the local school. I applied, I took the prerequisites and the exams, I got in the program, did my clinicals, graduated, took my boards, and got a job as a registered nurse. When you say, I want to be an independent patient advocate, it's a little unclear what comes next.
What's next? I love it.
So thankfully,
yeah.
one of the biggest things for me is somebody referred me to the circle, and that has just helped phenomenally to catapult me forward. I'm so thankful and grateful to be in your space.
Oh, thank you. We're so honored to have you here. For those of you that don't know, the Circle really is a free community for independent patient advocates to join, where we share all of our tools, tips, and resources, experience, wisdom, thoughts. We mastermind all of the great things. So if that's something you're interested in, the link is in the banner there working that. So Kayla, talk to me now. Okay, great. So now you've found this calling, you have started, and you gave some inclinations here about what happened, about this whole entrepreneur thing. Like it set you back for a minute, but then at the beginning of the year something kind of shifted. You found the circle, you found some community, you found some things. So what happened then? Like how did you go from putting your toe in the water of entrepreneurship to actually launching Herd for Life? Like what did that
Yeah.
look like?
So the key piece there that I hadn't mentioned yet is Miss Susie Rains. That's my business coach. Well, I guess I have to say now my former business coach, because I've transitioned from her beginners program actually into your inner circle, Nicole.
I'm super excited about that, by the way. I'm super
Me
excited
too.
about it.
But Susie is she's just a wonder. She specializes in beginning business planning and guidance for people actually transitioning out of a medical career into the online space. So yeah, so she is here for people like us. Yeah, she's wonderful, such a resource. And you know, actually I was just having this conversation with somebody who's looking to get into advocacy. And there is no shortage of information in the online space anymore. Anything you need to know about starting a business is online, probably 20 times over. So you could spend a year, 2 years, 3 years digging through all of the information to figure out how to even set up a business. Or you can work with somebody who knows what they're doing and let them guide you. And then you're free to spend all your time, money, and energy on actually getting the business off the ground. So that's the route that I took. And worth every penny. She is bomb.com.
I love it. I love that message that you're sending, Kayla. I too could not agree more with that initial investment to shorten the learning curve. I don't know your background. Do you come from a family of entrepreneurs?
Nope.
Do you have people? Okay, so neither do I. And so that's the one thing that I knew, right? The one thing that I knew is that I didn't know what I was doing.
Yep. And I'm okay with that. God gave me many gifts.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And so I completely agree with, you know, at least exploring that option of, and you know, the thing about it is in the online space, like you said, there's tons of ways to get that support, right? And there is something that will meet your budget. I just want to say that, right? Because lots of opportunities. You can do a VIP day, you can do an hour at a time, there's lots of things that you can do to get access to that support to shorten the learning curve of starting a new business. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes. And let's just have a moment of gratitude for that. I mean, my belief before was if you wanted to be in business, you had to go to business school. And I mean, now look what the world is. It's so amazing.
It is. It really is. It is amazing. I love it. Okay, so now we know how you got into launch Herd for Life. Now I want to hear about what is Herd for Life and what services do you offer and what makes you unique in that offering.
Yeah. So Herd for Life is That's the name of my company, and we are here for acute patient advocacy. When I first started talking with advocates, what I found over and over is most advocates that I've spoken with, anyways, operate in what I call kind of general advocacy. Most of the time, they function in their geographical area, go to doctor's appointments with people, check over the medications, a lot of chronic disease management. And that is absolutely wonderful. That is a very needed service.
Yeah.
For me, that wasn't something that gets me excited. There's a reason I work in the ER and the ICU for years and years. I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, and I really enjoy that acute and ever-changing nature. I have such an interest and a depth of knowledge that goes beyond just my bedside nursing. Another thing that struck me when I was interviewing advocates is I've yet to meet an advocate. So if you're out there, let me know. But I have yet to talk with an advocate who will take on a new client who is currently hospitalized. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, it takes a lot of time to onboard a client. And then while you're trying to even get to know them, their condition is changing, and it's a lot. For me, that's how I've spent my entire career. So that's my bread and butter. I said, okay, clearly there's a need here. I will fill that need. So I decided this makes perfect sense. I'm going to focus on just the acute side of patient advocacy. So medical navigation, guidance, and support for the hospitalized client. That is a virtual service. So even if you're out in California and your loved one is on the ventilator, and you need help even understanding the decisions they're asking you to make here on the East Coast, I can help you with that a moment away.
Nice. That's really amazing to me, Kayla, because I will say, the acute care setting is very intimidating.
It is.
Right? Just generally speaking, we've got so much happening, right? Because it's critical. It's critical, right? So it's critical and it's acute. That in and of itself is enough to be intimidating.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, to not understand and to be having to making decisions. So I certainly can see where your experience in that environment can bring a lot of value to not just patients, families, but also to advocates that have clients in that environment. So I think that's an amazing niche that you found. And I think that the delivery of that is awesome. This is the biggest question that I'm going to have, because I have the people who are watching are not just advocates, right? So there's people on here that will be watching that are financial professionals or other healthcare professionals or just friends and family, right? That aren't familiar with the healthcare system. So I'm going to ask, can you kind of talk about specifically the differences in advocacy in the acute care setting versus the outpatient setting? As an advocate, what do I need to be aware of in those two different environments that I might not be aware of?
It's really hard to boil that down to a sentence.
Not surprising.
Right. I think the biggest difference is, I can come up with a few. So when you're functioning in that more chronic disease management state, if a patient, first of all, when you bring on a client, they give you their diagnoses, their medications, there's time to sit down, and if there's something you're not familiar with, to thoroughly research it and ask them more questions and begin to understand what that looks like for them. There is none of that in the acute space. There is not that time. So without that depth of knowledge already being present, you're really at a disadvantage. And acute and critical care is not something that you can just read and absorb and apply to the unique patient situation. I will say, even just when I was a brand new nurse, I started on a step down unit. So also called progressive care. So not quite ICU, but really not ready to get out of the hospital yet either. And the transition from that level of care over to becoming an intensive care nurse, it was more difficult than nursing school. There's just
Wow.
so many things that go into play in critical care when you start talking about machines and medications artificially keeping people alive and all the different ways that they intertwine the different diagnoses that lead you there. It's just a lot. And you have
Yeah.
to know it inside and out to be able to react to life-threatening events in that timely fashion. So there just isn't a shortcut for it, unfortunately. And with it being such a wide array of knowledge, I mean, you can't be an expert in everything. So I would, by no means advise somebody to try to learn everything there is to know about it.
Sure.
It's interesting, though, you bring up about other advocates, because I am launching a program to help support other advocates more in this space called
Ooh.
Critical Companion.
Tell us about that.
Okay. So
Please.
yes, I'm holding an info session on it next Friday, the 14th at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Perfect.
And this service is going to be for other advocates. This one's not for the general public, to provide them with a place that they know they can come to a couple times a week. I'm going to have open office hours that you can shoot questions off, and I am that built-in resource right there, so that when your client does get hospitalized, you're not scrambling and frantic and trying to figure out how you're going to manage this. You've already got me in your pocket.
Love it. Ooh, girl. Yeah. I love that. I love a resources in the pocket.
Yeah. I'm here to help. I mean, the last thing I would want to see is for somebody to already have an advocate at their side and go in the hospital and not have the full benefit of that advocate. So I'm here to help bridge that gap.
Oh, that's amazing. And when did you say, we will make sure, Kayla, can you make sure that we get the link to the registration for that event so that we can put it in the comments? Yay. Perfect. And when did you say that was? Next week?
Yep. Friday, July 14th at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, good. So after I hang out with my Friday friend next Friday, then I can take my friend with me and we can go to your info session and learn more about that. I think that would be awesome. So yay. Excellent. So we're going to go ahead and start to wind this down. It sounds like Heard for Life is off to a great start. I love the premise. I love the niche. I think that it's exactly what we need, and I love what you said. This was my big takeaway. For those of you that may have missed it in what she just said, my biggest takeaway was that the application of her nursing skills, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kayla, but the application of your nursing skills in the acute and critical care environment was more challenging than nursing school. Is that what you really just said a few minutes ago?
Learning to become an ICU nurse from just a more regular hospital nurse, was more difficult than going through nursing school.
So if that doesn't tell you that there's a difference between general advocacy and advocating in the acute and critical care space, I don't know what else would. Like, that is
That's a good point.
That's pretty, right? That's pretty telling. And so if you're looking for support in that area, you want to make sure you have a resource in your pocket. Make sure that you go check out Kayla's info session for Critical Companion. That's next Friday afternoon. We're going to put the link in the comments. Kayla, I always like to ask at the end, what's your favorite patient success story ever?
Ooh. Well, this comes from ICU. Full transparency, I don't have any clients yet with my brand new business. But I had a patient who he had COVID, and he was one of the ones that got taken down hard and fast. And he was fighting to not go on the ventilator. And I was working a night shift, and through the night when he was really just fighting to breathe on the BiPAP, which is the mask. That's really our last ditch effort before actually putting a tube in and doing the breathing with the machines. We were communicating, of course, he was scared. We were communicating about his wishes through the night with a clipboard and a pen, because he didn't even have the energy to speak. He couldn't come off that mask. And he wrote out all of his wishes, the things that he wanted. You know, he did not want a life where he ended up getting a tracheostomy, so a hole in the neck, so that he could be kind of permanently attached to a ventilator. He really only wanted to try this for a short period of time. And a lot of people have that feeling, you know, that's totally understandable. And at shift change, the intensivist came back in, and we made the decision that it was kind of now or never to get him on the ventilator. And I said, you know, rest assured, we'll continue to work on this and honor your wishes. And sure enough, he really only wanted to give it 7 days. And on the 8th day, I was in the ICU again. I work in different places, but and his wife was really not okay with these decisions. She, like many people in these situations, you know, she didn't want to lose her husband. And she wanted to do everything. That's what people say all the time: do everything. They can't die. And I had her come in to the hospital, and she saw in his handwriting his wishes, and she saw with her own eyes. You know, you hear life support and you've seen TV, but then when you see it and all of the sequela that comes from maintaining life support, she knew that was no longer the right answer for him. And he was allowed to pass with no pain and with his wishes honored and some dignity left. And it's wild that I call that a success story, but you know, this is a lot of what we see in ICU. And you know, there's a whole conversation we could have around that, but death is an inevitability of life. And to be able, especially in a time of such fear with a disease that's spreading to so many, to still have, you know, some say and control on the way that you're going to go out through. And that's the difference an advocate makes, is to be able to have those deep conversations and be able to weigh the pros and the cons and to have the understanding and experience, and then to be able to get it to your loved one as well. You know, I don't know that just perhaps if he had had a different nurse that day, it wouldn't have happened that way.
Right. So gratefully and thankfully, you were there and able to advocate on his behalf. And I think that is the perfect story to end with. I really do, because as advocates, it is all about empowering the patients.
Right. And it's not always the easy things.
Right. In fact, a lot of times it's the hard things.
Yeah.
It's the hard conversations. It's the hard work. It's the, you know, and that's what we do as advocates. So what a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so excited for Critical Companion and the info session next week. As always, I love hanging out with you, by the way. So, you know, we'll have to, we're going to do it again Monday anyway. Not here, but we are hanging out again Monday. So it'll be all good. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us for the last 20 minutes. I hope that listening and learning more about Kayla and Heard for Life and what she's doing has been helpful. If anyone wants to connect with you, Kayla, what's the best way to do that?
You can find me right here on Facebook. I'm very responsive in Messenger. I'm also on LinkedIn. Or you can go to my website, and that's heardforlife.com.
Love it. Kayla, thank you again so much. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you back here next Friday for the next Friday Friend. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.